The Kershaw Spoke. This is a 2-inch blade, spring-assisted liner lock folder with a 4CR14 blade material, which is better than it sounds, at least in my use. I haven't used it heavily, but I have used it a bit, and it has held its edge much more nicely than I expected for a knife that cost less than 20 bucks. It is small, and I did get it specifically for the small size as a trial for something to carry around with me absolutely everywhere at all times. It ended up being a little bit thicker than I wanted for that in the handle, but the shape of that blade, where it's all belly, is actually really good. The ergonomics of actually using this are great for like whittling and shaving things down. It just gives you a really nice angle at all times for shaving things down. So for something so small, it works out pretty well. Mine came from the factory a little bit too tight in the pivot, so I did just loosen it up like a eighth of a turn, maybe a quarter of a turn, something in that range, and it deploys very nicely now. Like I said, spring assisted, something you don't all that frequently see in something this small, and yeah, that works quite well. Locks up with great confidence. It's well tuned in there. Not the greatest bearing material in there, but doesn't really need to be for something this cheap and small. It's a lot better of a knife than I expected it to be, honestly. Nice deep carry pocket clip as well. Just like I said, just has a little bit more thickness than I personally wanted for something that would basically be something that I would not even feel that I was carrying with me at most times. The 2-inch blade length is an interesting thing for people who live in municipalities that don't allow you to concealed carry anything more than 2 inches, but it depends on how you measure it. I mean, if you go here, yeah, it's under, here it's under 2, just barely. If you go along, I'm not going to give you a good angle here, but I did this offline before. If you go from absolute heel to tip, it's again just under 2 inches. But if you go the longest way possible along the spine here, it's way over 2 inches. So it really is going to depend on how that gets measured. If you're specifically looking for a knife that'll fit within 2 inches for legality reasons, read more closely into the law. If it's the length as the crow flies along the cutting edge, then this will work. Otherwise, you may potentially get into some kind of trouble, depending upon, if you get pulled over, or, if for some reason you need to display this to law enforcement to get it checked. If they measure it the longest way possible of exposed blade, then you'll be in trouble. So just something to keep in mind. Overall, though, I feel like this is a pretty good value for what it is, and it's a much better design than I expected, and is actually something quite usable given its tiny little size.